Prayer is the most misunderstood art of the human experience. Everybody prays. Buddhists pray, Hindus pray, Muslims pray, Scientologists pray, humanists pray to themselves. Everybody prays. And so prayer is not unique to any specific religion. I think prayer is unique to humans. The human spirit has to somehow look outside himself for help. That's a normal human response. And this is why even when an atheist gets in an accident, he say, "Oh my God." Inside of the human DNA, there is something which says, I need help outside of myself, outside of this world. And this is why people pray. However, not all prayers are answered. Now, some people think that prayer is just a suspicion. It doesn't work. Matter of fact, there are people who are so skeptical about prayer that they don't even ascribe to it. They say that prayer is really a waste of time. Prayer is not real. It doesn't work. And in some ways, I can appreciate their comments, because if you had a bad experience with something, you develop a skepticism about it. But prayer is the most important activity of humanity. First of all, let me just correct a couple of concepts about prayer. Number one, prayer is not a religious act. Religions use it, but prayer in its original context is not an original and not a religious act. It's actually a governmental activity. It's a political act. Why? Because the word prayer, when you read the Bible, the word that is used for prayer is the word that is kind of a strange word. It means petition. To petition. And petitions are only presented to governments or to an authority. The word that is used for prayer is a governmental activity. So when you talk about petitioning, there has to be some specific things involved. You cannot petition unless you have laws and constitutions. So constitutional rights are necessary in order for citizens to petition a government. This is why when the Bible talks about the coming of the Messiah, it had to say, "For unto us a child is born, and unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders." He's coming with a government on his shoulders. And then it says, "He shall reign." Reign means it is authority. On the throne of David, which means that is a governmental position. And he shall establish his kingdom, which is a government and a country. And he shall establish it on peace and righteousness. Prayer is therefore the petitioning of an authority for rights that are guaranteed in a constitution. Prayer is the petitioning of authority for rights guaranteed in the Constitution. When I did my research on the word prayer, all the Hebrew words that are used are interesting words, and they have to do with asking for something from someone who you believe has it. In other words, you go to your boss and pray for a raise. The word prayer would be used there in the Hebrew language. If you went to go and ask for a raise on your job, the word prayer would be used there. Because you are going to an authority who you believe has the capacity to answer your request. But it has to be an authority with the ability. So prayer is not really a religious experience. It is actually a legal activity. And this is why prayer is misunderstood. Here's the Hebrew word that is used for prayer in most of the texts. Matter of fact, there are about 7 words that are translated from the word prayer. But this one is the most powerful one. And this word, entexis, is also from a root word, desis. And these two words in Hebrew means petition or to entreat. Now, you entreat someone if they are a governmental authority. You entreat them because you believe they have what you need, and you have a right to get it. So prayer involves a number of things that has to be in place. There has to be an authority, there has to be laws, there has to be a constitutional rights situation, and then you got to know what they have and know that you have a right to it. Prayer. Prayer, therefore, is petitioning the authority. Let me give you a couple of thoughts to think about prayer, and if you can't keep up with me here, write as fast as you can, but after the meeting, run to that table over to your right and get a copy of this session on DVD and CD if you wish to get all the notes. The power of the human is necessary in understanding prayer. Listen carefully, please. When God created the earth, he gave legal authority in the earth to humans. Remember God speaking in Genesis 1:26 about the making of you. He says, let us make a species called man in our own image and in our likeness, and let them have dominion over the earth. He didn't say let us have dominion. He said let them have dominion over the earth. That means he was shifting control over the earth from himself to his children. Now, one of the issues in the Bible that becomes very, very sensitive is the fact that when God speaks, his words become law, like any other king, except he's the King of Kings. So when God speaks, his word becomes law. So when God says, let them have dominion over the earth, he was literally creating a law in the earth where them become the authority. Them is referring to humans. Now, a human is a mystery, and I mentioned this last time. A human is a composite of dirt and spirit. The word humus means earth or dust. Write that down. It means dirt, humus. The word man is the word God used to describe the spirit being that he created. The Hebrew word there is the word ish, man, ish, mankind. God made a spirit being out of himself and put it in a dirt body which he formed from the ground and called it man. And because he is in humus, he is called humus man or human. Now that is the creature God gave authority in the earth to. He gave authority in the earth to a spirit being living in a dirt body. That is the law. Therefore, it means then that the only creatures that have legal right to function on earth with authority are spirits with a body. So if you don't have a body in this planet, a physical body, you are illegal on earth. This is why demons are illegal. That's why God says you can cast them out, because you're the one with the legal authority. They don't have a legal authority. This is also why demons are trying to get into your body, because they're trying to get the legal power. Casting out a demon makes the demon illegal. This is why every time Jesus encountered a demon, the demon begged to stay, because he knew if he left, he's illegal. Well, you remember the story about the man who was in the graveyard when Christ met him, and he was possessed with all these demons, and he said his name was Legion. That's a lot of demons. And they begged Christ. They said, do not cast us out. But if you do cast us out, put us in another dirt body, the pigs. And it's amazing that Jesus cast them out and they went into the pigs. Why? The pig's body is dirt. Even the pigs didn't want them. I don't know how humans could. I mean, humans just kind of sit around with demons on the inside. But the pigs ran into the ocean and killed themselves. Why? They didn't want no demon living in them. Even the pigs got sense. But you see, demons are illegal. Now, here's the problem. any spirit without a body is illegal on earth. And God will never violate his own laws. That is why, for example, God couldn't come into the earth legally without a body. The incarnation, everybody say incarnation. Write that word down, it's a big word, I can't spell it. Incarnation, the word carnal means flesh or dirt, carnal. Incarnation means the coming into a dirt body of God. That is why in Isaiah chapter 7, verse 9, it says these words. Isaiah says, the virgin shall be with child and shall bear a son, and his name shall be called Immanuel. Im means in, man is mankind, and El is Elohim. He says God is going to actually come in a dirt body. Many people who are skeptics about Jesus and being God and all that stuff, they don't understand that God was working on protecting a law. That's why Jesus Christ had authority on earth, because he had a body. As a matter of fact, this is why you have authority on earth today, because you have a body. When you lose your body, you become illegal, and that's why you leave. If you die physically today, your spirit has to leave the planet. Absent from the body, you got to get out of here. Now, some of you folks think you saw your auntie last night and saw your cousin and your uncle, and that ain't true. You remember the Bible talks about Saul going to Samuel because he wanted to see the dead spirit of Samuel, the prophet who was his prophet. And Samuel was dead physically. And Saul went to a witch, a medium, voodoo, witchcraft, juju. I got all the words there? Okay. He went to a medium and he says, take me to the cemetery and call the spirit of Samuel back because I want to talk to him. So the king was led by this medium to the graveyard to talk because he wanted to get consultation from a dead person. Sounds familiar? And the Bible says he went to the cemetery and the medium did a little coochie thing. And the spirit appeared and said, I am Samuel. And began to talk. And the Bible says, then the Lord spoke and said, this is not Samuel. This is a familiar spirit. Now, familiar spirit means a demon that is familiar with you. That means they know your personality, they know your mannerisms, they follow you all day. Some of them following you right now. They can't get inside because you're born again, but they know how you sit, how you talk, how you suck your teeth. They know everything. They pick up, they become familiar with your behavior, and they can impersonate you when you leave. So you thought you saw your uncle. When you lose your body, you are illegal. You can't function here. You remember Jesus told a story. He said that there was a man who was a rich man, and he treated a poor man, Lazarus, very badly. And they both died. One went where the demons are, one went to the bosom of Abraham in heaven. And the Bible says they couldn't talk. And they said the rich man was in torment. Now watch this. He said the rich man cried out and said, if I could just go back to earth and warn them. See, when you go, you can't come back. Matter of fact, even Jesus Christ cannot come back to this earth without a body. That's why he was resurrected, to make sure he could. And that body was not a spirit body. It was a physical body. The disciples thought he was a spirit. They said, this is a spirit. He said, no, touch me. Then he says, flesh and bone do not have this kind of material if I'm a spirit. And they touched him. That's why you're going to be raised again from the dead, so you can come back to the earth and rule. Now, why am I telling you this? Because your body is the key to your authority on earth. Now, here's the bottom line then. God doesn't have a spirit. He is spirit. And God chose to make himself illegal. That was his prerogative. Don't ask me why. I think it's because he wants you to share his power. He says the highest heavens belong to the Lord, but the earth he gave to the sons of men. In other words, he wants the kids to feel how rulership is. So he has his territory. He gave you yours. He says, now you handle yours, I handle mine. And then he says, whenever you want me to come into yours, I got to get legal permission through you. Prayer, therefore, is man giving God legal access to earth through his faith. Prayer is necessary because nothing happens on earth without the cooperation of a human. God cannot just come into earth and do what he feels like. If he could, he should have fixed the murders in our country a long time ago. He should have gotten rid of all the Iraq war and all the terrorists. You think God's enjoying a bus being blown up on Thursday with children in it in Iran? He's not a bloodthirsty God enjoying all the killing. But the problem is he can't come in unless a human gives him access. Because the human got the body and God ain't got the body. That's why God says, if my people, which are called by my name, would humble themselves and pray, seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear, where? From heaven. I'm in heaven. And I will forgive their sins and come in and heal their land. But the first word is if. There's a condition. If I can find a human who will cooperate with me, I can impact the planet. Prayer is therefore necessary for earth to be influenced by heaven.